Alright y'all, Pusha T just dropped his new album. It's almost dry. So let's talk about it. Y'all ready? Let's go.
I came to vibe, you came to function, just do that, baby. Don't worry about nothing, no.
What's good, y'all? It's your boy Bright here, the R&B kid, and I'm back again with another episode of On the Bright Side TV. Welcome back, y'all. How you doing? Hope you're doing very well. Listen, y'all, I've not done a video in a couple weeks, so I want to come back, and I really want to get in the vibe of doing the album reviews again, because I feel like I've not done those in a while. So I really want to get back into this window, just doing the album reviews, just kind of keep up regular videos for you guys. Even though y'all know I've been in somewhat of a dry spell YouTube, I want to get back into things. So I wanted to talk about Pusha T's album to start things off. Let's get into it. My guy Pusha T put out his 4th album, It's Almost Dry, this past Friday on April 22nd, 2022 on Good Music and Def Jam. And I believe this is his last album on, I'm not sure if it's Good Music or Def Jam. I think it's Def Jam, because he might still be with Good Music, but I know it's at least his last album with Def Jam, and probably Good Music, because Kanye gave Pusha T back his masters. I think it was either sometime earlier this year or sometime late last year. Kanye gave Pusha his masters, which I thought was a dope move, but also didn't surprise me because, you know, him and Kanye are close, so I could see, you know, Kanye not holding up that process or, like, you know, putting Pusha through the ringer to get, to get his masters back. He's been a very dedicated, loyal artist who's done his thing, kept, just stayed to himself, minded his business, was very drama-free, produced good work, and has just always been there to help Kanye. So I'm not mad. That was a very easy process. So shout out to Kanye for doing that for Pusha T, and shout out to Pusha T for now being, I'm assuming right now, an independent artist after the release of this album. So shout out to him for that. Major milestone for his career. And shout out to Pusha T, man, because Pusha T is something that people don't talk about enough. I think it's because, especially in the 2000s, he didn't have a lot of solo output. So I think that's why he doesn't get that kind of love and respect today. But Pusha T has been out here doing this thing for like about over 20 years now. Like just really consistently, just quietly, just being like one of the dopest MCs out, quietly and consistently for like over 20 years now. So shout out to him for that. And just shout out to him for still being here after all these years with his 4th album, 4th solo album, and it's a great project as usual. I feel like Pusha T is one of those people where I'm never ever gonna expect him to put out an album that's subpar or trash or whack. Like, there are plenty of other rappers in the world where I'm like, okay, if your album comes out, I might expect that, but Pusha T is not one of those artists. Unfortunately, I remember like upon my initial reaction of the Daytona album with all of my frat bros, we had a long day. It was just a long day. We had a bad reaction to the album, but actually Daytona was a great album that I talked about after that video. But Daytona was a great project, Grammy nominated as it deserved to be. Great project, and this is the follow-up to the album after almost 4 years. So I love how Pusha has stayed consistent in terms of, deciding to always work with Kanye West and or Pharrell for most of his projects. He's had other people as well in the mix, but he always depends on Kanye and Pharrell for, as his main in-house producers. And I think, to me, that's been a great decision because it's allowed him to stay consistent with his level of quality in terms of production and how that production mixes with his vocal styling and with his vocal work and just his style of rapping. I feel like Kanye West and Pharrell just get him, and I feel like that showed with this album as well, just like it showed with every other album that they worked on. But at the same time, I will admit that there was a part of me that kind of would have loved to have seen what this album could have been if Pusha didn't, if for once Pusha didn't rely on Kanye and Pharrell and actually played around with like having either another producer or maybe another set of producers taking the helm of the project. And maybe having Kanye and Pharrell like, produce like a few tracks or whatever. But I think it will be cool at this point now, especially because he's had so much history with Kanye and Pharrell. I would have loved to have seen what this album could have been like if he had chosen another producer, like a classic producer that we all know, or maybe someone that's more unknown and maybe someone that's more like newer or unknown, or more maybe someone that's more seasoned but not as big of a name, but who still would have gave Pusha that sound he was looking for, and who really could have worked with him to really hone in and really learn Pusha and work with him to bring out the best in him. I still think what Kanye and Pharrell did on this album was great, but because and this is one of my critiques I want to get into, even though I think what Kanye and Pharrell did on this album, production-wise, they each produced like half the album. I think what they gave to Pusha on this album was great, but it also, I remember listening to it, like the first time I listened to it, I kind of felt like Kanye's production is amazing, typical Kanye vibes. Pharrell's production is amazing. Nothing is whack here, but a lot of the beats also didn't hit me as like, oh, this is like a game-changing beat. This is like a different level for like a type of beat that, you know, that Pusha T is just going crazy over. Like, and that's not a knock to Pharrell. It's not a knock to Kanye at all, because everything they did here was cool. But some of these songs I was listening to, I was like, okay, this is great, but because of how hyped this album was from Pusha and from a lot of people just in the hip-hop world, I kind of was expecting this album to just be, I don't know, conceptually it's consistent with Pusha T's brand and his vibe, but I think production-wise, I think, you know what, because when I think about Daytona, which was all Kanye, was really an album that Kanye just went in production-wise. It really was a really well-produced album, and I think I was expecting, if anything, to have that level of output, if not anything better, for this project. And I feel like all these beats that were very interesting and very fitting for Pusha T's voice and his sound and his vibe, but a lot of these beats didn't make me feel like 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now we'll look back on this beat and be like, oh my god, this really was like one of the best beats that came out that year, or like this is like one of the dopest beats of, like, you know, this generation. And that's kind of what I was hoping that this album was gonna give, especially with the way Pusha was hyping up for, you know, Pharrell and Kanye's contribution to this album. So not a knock on everybody involved, but I was expecting more game-changing, like more unique beats. And, you know, Kanye and Pharrell give us that, but I was expecting just something more and different, if that makes sense. But what we got here is definitely not bad at all. So that's not really a knock like that, but it's just something I kind of felt personally. I was like, I kind of was hoping for beats that would have just like shocked me, like really grabbed me, like the first time I heard them. You know what I'm saying? I was looking for that more. I was looking for more than the album. But to me, that doesn't signify the album being bad or whack or subpar. It's just, I guess it's just me kind of misinterpreting what I thought was about to be an album full of, like, you know, crazy beats that were just different and unique and out of this world, you know, especially from Pharrell. But if anything, even though I'm saying that, I think, to me, even though I loved Kanye's contribution to this project, I actually think I prefer a lot of Pharrell's production more so on this project. They both did great work, but I think I prefer a lot of Pharrell's tracks more, even though Kanye did great work. So yeah, man, I think overall, my highlights for the album, what I really liked about this album, I think this album was just so consistent. I think it was sequenced well. It was so consistent in terms of the sound and the concept, and just, I guess, Pusha's ability to just level up and continue to evolve in the way he can just poetically, you know, put on wax, you know, stories of, you know, of all types of, you know, drug crimes, and just, you know, just giving us coke rap galore, but in such a poetic, cinematic way, which is something that we don't really talk about enough when it comes to Pusha T and coke rap in general, just drug rap in general, is artists being able to, like, really not just, you know, give us, you know, the bars, but really making it cinematic and, you know, evolving their sound and the bars and the wordplay. And I feel like Pusha T is one of those artists where I think a lot of people give him credit, but I don't think we talk about it enough for him just being something that has evolved with every album. As his career has evolved, he's just gotten better with his pen. He's just a really seasoned MC that just knows his pocket, knows his lane, and he kills every single time. And I think with this album, he again just gave you 12 tracks of excellence when it came to bars, flow, a rapper who knows their sound, knows their pocket, knows their vibe, and he went with it, and he stuck with it, and it was consistent. It was consistently good to hear him just talk about, you know, his opinions on things going on in his life right now, reflecting back on the past, and, you know, and just also just talking his shit when it came, you know, when it comes to, like, just coke rap, like just talking his shit in general, like just popping his shit, you know, talking that good shit. Like he did it like he always does. He killed it. And I think, for me, I think I wasn't disappointed by any of that. I think when it came to his bars, when it came to, like, the way he just, like, you know, told stories, when it came to his actual voice, the way he played with his voice, the way he played with the sounds, the way he tried to marry himself with the production, I think he did a great job as always with that. So I think for me, that's what I really loved about this project. But if I had to give major critiques for the album, I think for me, one of the, like I said, besides my issues with maybe Kanye and Pharrell's production not being as exciting as I thought it was going to be at first, even though a lot of it is still great, I think my other critique with this album is two things mainly. First, I felt like a lot of these songs were so short to the point where it didn't make me like mad, because I'm used to songs being short in this generation. That's what we're going through right now. So I'm very numb to it. But at the same time, I thought Pusha is somebody that would push himself, no pun intended, that would push himself to not fall into the 2-minute song, you know, vibe that we're all in right now. And I thought Pusha would be someone that would say, hey, listen, I'm gonna give you guys 3-4 minute songs that might not help me with streaming, but it'll help me create more full-bodied, more realized, and more timeless songs. I feel like when songs are like 2 minutes, it's hard for them to be as resonant, as timeless, and as dope as I feel like they can be, especially for an artist of Pusha T's caliber. But you know, I understand why he made a lot of these songs short. But I think a lot of these songs being so short, it kind of made me feel like by the time I was really getting into it, like the song was damn near over, and I was like, damn, like I was really getting into that, and it wasn't bad that it was short, but I'm like, I feel like this track would have been even better if it was like 3-4 minute song instead of like 2.5 minutes, you know. So I would have loved, like, you know, for a lot of songs I've had like an extra verse, or just kind of like have more of like an outro, or like play with like a, you know, just play with having like some type of thing that'll just fill out the song more than just like a, you know, a quick verse, hook, and then kind of fade out. Like, so, you know, that was kind of my issue with the song length. But I understand why he made these songs so short, because that's the times we're in, so I get it. But personally, I was hoping Pusha would have gave us tracks that were just more like 3-4 minute songs, because I feel like these songs are so good that they deserved, you know, the time and room to breathe and really show their greatness. And I feel like a lot of times that wasn't able to happen over like a 2.5 minute length, you know what I'm saying? So that's one of my major issues with the album. The other issue I have with the album, it's not really an issue, but I think it's been obviously a major point of discourse since the album dropped, and that's, you know, Pusha T's lack of evolution in, you know, his albums conceptually, or at least with him not being able to talk about anything else besides coke rap. And I think I fall on the side of, I'm not really on either side of that, because I think I fully respect Pusha T's lane and like the direction he decided to take, and I respect his consistency and his dedication to being like the GOAT of coke rap, and just making it not on some basic level shit, but he really wants to be like, I think he said he wants to be like the Martin Scorsese of coke rap, and that he's definitely doing that right now with his career, so I respect that. But I also feel people that, you know, for the sake of his legacy and for the sake of other people kind of getting on board who are not into coke rap per se, I would have loved for Pusha, and I know this is a recurring argument, so don't throw tomatoes, but I personally would have loved for Pusha to have talked about more things besides the coke rap vibes. And not because what he doesn't do well, but just because, like I said, for the sake of his legacy and for the sake of, you know, while he still has his core fan base, and I respect, you know, feeding your core fan base, and while they will always be there, because I want Pusha T to continue to, you know, grab more fans and grab more audiences as the years go by for him, I a lot of times would love for him to really just have those key tracks that will not be about coke rap, that won't be about, you know, hood crimes, that won't be about, you know, violence and drugs and all that. Like, I would love for Pusha to just have I would like for like most of this album to be what it was, but then have like a few tracks where it's not really about the coke rap vibes and really just talking about other stuff. And the thing is, that's probably not a fair argument, because Pusha definitely intertwines a lot of, you know, things that are not just coke rap in every song. So I think that's why it's not that much of a fair argument. So, you know, I get that. But at the same time, I think it will be cool for Pusha to have really just played with, like I said, maybe having a different producer that can bring out a different side of him, or just having a song that's strictly about something unique that's not based on coke rap or, you know, hood crimes, like I said. So to me, it's not like a complete knock, because I know that that's Pusha's lane and he wants to stick to that, so I'm not mad at that. And because there are plenty of other rappers that can go to for those vibes, so, you know, that's not like a knock against him in this album. But like I said, it's more so selfishly for me, just wanting him to, I feel like with him sticking to his lane as hard as he does, I feel like he's not grabbing, you know, the new listeners and the new audiences in the way that he could if he put more of an effort into that. Even though I know he's comfortable and dedicated to the lane he's in. So, you know, I'm kind of like in between on that argument. But I just wanted to bring it up because for people who feel that way, I get it, and I honestly kind of feel the same way. But for people who are like, but nah, that's Pusha's lane, like that's what he does, like why do you want him to go beyond that? That's what he wants to do. I respect that as well. I honestly respect and understand both sides. So I just wanted to kind of bring the argument up. But for me, that, to me, that wasn't something that brought down this album at all. It's just something that I feel like would have made it an even more, you know, timeless, more well-rounded, more iconic album if it had included some other stuff in here, you know, conceptually and topic-wise, other than, you know, the usual fare. But to me, this was still an amazing project. I am so proud of Pusha T's consistency. I'm proud of, you know, just him being someone that isn't worried about, you know, timelines and deadlines and trying to just push out product just for the sake of pushing it out. He took his time to create amazing song after amazing song after amazing song, and it shows in the work, so I'm proud of him for that. You know, we have great features here from, you know, Kanye, Jay-Z, Pharrell, Kid Cudi, Uzi Vert, Don Toliver, you know, and Labyrinth, and his brother Malice on the final track. Loving the features. And I also wanted to mention, even though Pharrell and Kanye produced most of this album, I also don't like how we're kind of ignoring a lot of other people who contributed production to this album, and, you know, mainly 88 Keys on Diet Coke. Bugs the Beast produced 2 tracks, actually like low-key 2 of my favorite tracks, Just So Remember and Hear Me Clearly. Shout out to Bugs the Beast, FNZ, Labyrinth produced on the last track. So we had a lot of people besides Kanye and Pharrell on this album, so I wanted to mention them as well, because they did great work. Alright, so that's pretty much my overall thoughts about the album. Let's do a quick track-by-track review. Brambleton, the intro for the album, I was rocking with it. I thought it was a really great vibe to start out the album. I love the production by Pharrell. I like what he was talking about. I forgot who he was talking about, but he was talking about one of his mans that had a live TV interview, and he was talking about some stuff with him back in the day. I forgot, but yeah, he was talking about that, and like a lot of stuff from his past, talking about Brambleton Ave and all that. So that was a cool track to kind of start off the vibe for the story for the album. And then we go into Let the Smoker Shine the Coupes, which has one of my favorite beats on the album. Shout out to Pharrell. I love that beat. And I love how like the track flowed. I like how they arranged it. Like I like how like Pusha flow in tandem with the beat. I love how cool. He really killed that flow. So I love that. I love the beat. I love the flow. I love that title and the concept. Let the Smoker Shine the Coupes. That's crazy. That's wild. Let the Smoker Shine the Coupes. That's wild. But hey, listen. Pusha T been about this life, so why are we surprised? But yeah, man, that was definitely a highlight for me. Then we go into Dreaming of the Past, which had a nice little soul sample, typical Kanye West vibes. I think it was a soul sample by Donny Hathaway. I love the soul sample vibe of that track. Him and Kanye were talking about, you know, dreaming of the past and stuff that happened in the past that they can't go back and revisit, and how that's brought them into today. Cool track. A lot of, you know, people who are like older can definitely appreciate those vibes. Yeah, cool track. Neck and Wrist was after that with Jay. This came out a few weeks ago. I like this track, to be honest. I like the beat, but I do think, you know, with this being a monumental moment of Pusha T and Jay-Z linking, I would have hoped that Pusha T and Jay-Z would have picked a more like unique and more exciting beat. The beat for Neck and Wrist is a vibe. It's not bad at all, but I would have hoped that for the moment that this was, they would have picked a beat that was just more in your face, more exciting, more, you know, more just different. And more, just not so mellow. But at the same time, like, definitely, like I said, it wasn't a bad beat, and I enjoyed the vibe. And I still thought Pusha and Jay both snapped on their verses. Like, I thought Pusha did his thing on the track, and I thought Jay snapped as well. I love how he was talking about, you know, all people talking shit about how he wouldn't have been where he's at now if Big had been alive. I love how you address y'all haters. Keep doing your thing, Jay. But yeah, they both killed it lyrically and with the vibe. I just wish they picked a more interesting beat by Pharrell, but Pharrell's beat was still a vibe, so it's all good. And then we go to one of my favorite tracks on the album, Just So Remember. I love the eerie feeling of this track. Shout out to Bugs the Beast and Kanye West and FNZ on this production. It kind of gives you like a dark forest, like dark metal, like lurking in the night. Someone about to get lit the fuck up if you don't watch out and watch it back type of vibe. You know what I'm saying? With that eerie beat that got the guy that has like a tribal beat on it. It was just, I love that song. And it just kind of like envelops you and really like sucks you in with that production. And the way Push was just flowing over it. And like, I like how he was like, just so you remember who you dealing with. Like, that track was just like, that was one of those tracks where Pusha got into his bag, you know what I'm saying? Like with his voice, his flow, his vibe, and with the lyrics, he really just got into his bag with Just So You Remember. Love that track, such a highlight. I love the eerie feeling of that track. It was just like, oh, that haunting feeling, it was a highlight for me. It was just like, okay, and that's one of those times where like, give me a mellow beat, but make it interesting. Like, that was a perfect example of what I was hoping like Neck and Wrist would be if it was gonna be a mellow beat, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, so Just So Remember, crazy. Love that track. Then we go to Diet Coke. That came out back in February. Great track. The beat was produced by 88 Keys back in like 2004, I think. So that's amazing. Shout out to 88 Keys for just keeping that beat around and for Pusha saying, fuck it, let's go with that beat from years ago. So that was dope. I like Dead Coke a lot. Shout out to Dead Coke. Cool track. And shout out to Kanye West on it as well. And then we got Rock and Roll featuring Kanye West and Kid Cudi. When I first heard this track, I didn't like it at all. Not unless I didn't like it at all, but I didn't like it that much. I thought it was kind of like a throwaway a little, you know, to be honest. But then when I heard it again, it grew on me. I think for me, you know what's funny? I remember Pusha saying that Kid Cudi went through like 3 or 4 versions of the hook, or like 3 or 4 versions of like what he did. And what Kid Cudi did on that song, I was cool with it, but I also felt like it could have been better. So I would have loved to see what the other versions of the hook that Kid Cudi came up with, like I would have loved to see what those other versions sounded like and what they would have been like on the track, because I feel like Rock and Roll to me is it's not a bad track, but it's already getting a mad love because of who's featured on it, especially with the Kanye West and Kid Cudi beat, which I don't care about at this point right now. It's fine, they're grown men. If they're not cool, that's their business. It's a little sad basically, but it is what it is. We'll be alright. But I think for me, I think a lot of people hyped up this track because of the features. But in terms of the track itself, to me, it didn't excite me that much. But it has grown on me over time since I've heard it again and again. It's grown on me over time. But I just feel like Kid Cudi, to me, he wasn't bad on it, but I just felt like, I don't know, his presence on the track just felt really random. Kanye's didn't feel as random, even though I would have been okay with Kanye not being on it either. But yeah, Kid Cudi just, I don't know, I feel like his presence, like it didn't excite me like I thought it would on a track with this type of vibe. I feel like Kid Cudi kind of missed the boat a little bit with having a better hook and having a better outro with him singing all that. Like the typical singing, mumbling vibe that Kid Cudi gives, I feel like it could have been better towards the end of the track. It wasn't bad, but I just feel like it didn't like excite me like that. But it's not a knock to Cudi and Kanye. I just feel like, I don't know, to me I just feel like this track was not the highlight that I thought it was gonna be. But it's not a bad track at all, so let me know what y'all think about Rock and Roll. And then after that we got the track called My Bluff, one of my other favorites off this album. At first it didn't get me like that, but after a few listens it really gets you. It's one of those tracks that really just gets better after a few listens, and I love the vibe of it. 1-800 call my bluff, you know what I'm saying? He talking his shit on the song, getting his shit off. I love it. Shout out to Pro on the beat. Definitely one of my favorite tracks off the album. And then we get Scrape It Off, another one of my favorite tracks as well, featuring Lil Uzi Vert and Don Toliver. I love this track. I love that it gave Pusha T a moment to kind of have like a little bit of like a bounce and a bop on the album that wasn't like a solo moment with him. I love how he was able to show that he can like hang and have a good vibe and make a good track with like the young dudes. Like I love that. I thought Lil Uzi Vert did a good job. Don Toliver killed that hook. Don Toliver is gonna be, I promise you, mark my words, like who I said this about Roddy Ricch too. Roddy Ricch and Don Toliver, if they keep it up, they're gonna be 2 of the hook killers of this decade. Like they're gonna be killing hooks for the whole decade. Don Toliver's voice is so unique and he killed that hook. And I love how he's I love that. Don Toliver killed it. Lil Uzi Vert did his thing. I love Pusha's verse at the end. Like he was like, and it did, my boy, and it did, my boy. I love that. I love that flow. He killed it. I love that track. To me, that's like, this is the clear like hit off the album right now. So I hope it gets like a video, a full release. It deserves it. It deserves a moment. It's a great track. It's a bop. It's a banger. I love how I feel like it's a track that can let the young dudes and the older dudes come together to enjoy both sides. You know, the older dudes, they got Pusha T. The younger dudes, they got Pusha T and the Pharrell beat. And then the younger dudes, we got Lil Uzi Vert and Don Toliver. Perfect mix. And I thought they all did a great job to come together to create a great track. So I love Scrape It Off, my favorite tracks off the album for sure. And then after that, we got Hear Me Clearly with Nigo, which is also on Nigo's album that came out recently as well. Hear Me Clearly is also, to me, another highlight. I love the production, I love the vibe on it. Hear Me Clearly, you know, I love the flow Pusha had in this track. I love the production. Shout out to Books the Beast again, and Kanye West and a few other people. Yeah, definitely a highlight for me in terms of the production, the vibe, the feeling. As we're closing out the album, I loved it. And then we get the track Open Air, which to me was really a cool track. To me, it wasn't a highlight at all, produced by Pharrell, but it was definitely a cool track. And to me, it didn't feel like a throwaway. It felt like a necessary track. And I liked where it was placed on the album. I feel like it made sense. So this is a cool track. And then the last track on the album, track 12, is I Pray For You with Labyrinth and his brother Malice from Coupes. Man, what a moment. I thought this was a great track to end off the album. It was the only track on the album that really had like somewhat of like a sentimental, like gospel-y type of feel to it. But it wasn't mad at that. But this song kind of made me, like I said, kind of made me wonder what this album could have been like if he had played with more sounds and vibes. Like if we had more gospel-y or more R&B or maybe more like I wonder if Pusha would have been down to play with like a drill beat. Like I would have loved to see more variety in his albums, in terms of like just the, not so much the sound, but just the feeling. Because I think Kanye and Pharrell and all these producers, they give us the same type of, they gave us different sounds, but they gave us the same feeling. So I would have loved to have seen, what other types of feels we could have got with other types of vibes on the tracks, like a gospel track on a Pray For You, which to me is definitely a highlight. Shout out to Labyrinth and Kanye West on the production. And I love just seeing and hearing him and his brother's synergy on a track again. I don't remember the last time they were on a track together. I think it's been a while. It's probably been years since Malice, became like he became a preacher and all that. So it's been a long time since they were on a track together, and the synergy was right back, like it never left, which is amazing to see. I mean, they're brothers. And Malice, he's still in tip-top shape lyrically. He did his thing. I loved Malice's verse talking about like, I love what he was saying on that verse, talking about like, I talked to my brother and I told him to like watch out for him. He said something like that. And then he also said like, I forgot what Malice said in his verse, but Malice had a great verse that was talking about some cool shit. And I loved his wordplay on his verse as well. Shout out to Malice, his verse was crazy, and Pusha's verse was crazy as well. I thought it was really great and sentimental and really poetic way to end the album off with, him reuniting with his brother after all these years. And just talking about like, kind of on a uplifting, sentimental, I'll pray for you, all that type of stuff, resolution, all that. So yeah, man, cool way to end off the album. That's pretty much my thoughts on the album overall and my thoughts on each track. I might have missed some things that I probably wanted to talk about. Apologies if I forgot to talk about something, but I think I got pretty much everything I wanted to say for the album. So yeah, pretty much, y'all, I think this album is great. To me, like, I already gave you guys my highlights and what I loved about the album and my critiques and what I thought could have been better. So let me know what y'all thought about it. In terms of my favorite tracks, I think I would say I Let the Smoker Shine, the Coupes. Maybe Dream of the Past, I'm not sure. Definitely Just So You Remember, for sure. Definitely Call My Bluff. Scrape It Off, for sure, I love that song. Maybe Hear Me Clearly as well. And then definitely I Pray For You. Those are my favorite tracks on the album. To me, those are the standouts. No whack tracks are here for me, like nothing that's whack. But to me, the songs that like I said, could have been, something could have been better. I feel like the neck and wrist beat could have been a little bit better, but I still thought it was a great track. Rock and Roll, I wasn't really here for Kanye and Kid Cudi's features like that, but it still wasn't a bad track at all. And then Open Air, to me, wasn't a bad track, wasn't a filler track. To me, it wasn't a highlight, but it definitely was a good track for sure. So, and in terms of my rating for this album, I'm gonna give this album a 4 out of 5 stars. I feel like that feels right. A 4.5 would have been a little bit too high for me, and I think anything less than a 4 wouldn't have been fair, because this album was really consistent, really well put together, well made, well produced, well rapped, well sequenced. It's a really good body work for hip hop this year, and I think this was definitely one of the best rap albums of the year for sure, in terms of bars, in terms of production, in terms of just energy. This is definitely one of the best moments of the year for hip hop. So I'm excited for this. I'm excited for this album. I'm excited for Pusha T, and hopefully we'll get more from this album. More videos, performances, more moments. Hopefully that'll come soon. But for now, I'm gonna give this album a 4 out of 5. So let me know what y'all think about that rating down below. Alright, y'all, so that was my review for Pusha T's new album, It's Almost Dry. Let me know what y'all thought about the album down below. Did y'all love it? Did y'all hate it? Did y'all think it's okay? I think it could have been better. Let me know what y'all think down below. Appreciate it. And let me know what are your favorite tracks and your least favorite tracks as well, okay? Appreciate y'all. And if you haven't already, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, okay? Thank you. And like I always say, guys, live your best life, drink more water, stay woke, and if you're mad or sad, go listen to your favorite song, make you feel better, okay? Go listen to your favorite song. And please, guys, stay masked up. COVID is still out here, y'all. COVID is still out here. Please mask up, y'all, when it's bright, all right? All right, y'all, this has been your boy Bright, the R&B Kid. Thank you for watching, but for now, I'm signing off, baby. Bye, y'all. Peace.
I came to vibe, you came to function, just do that, baby. Don't worry about nothing, no. I came to vibe, you came to function, just do that, baby. Don't worry about nothing, no. Relax just a little bit. You don't gotta worry, you can just